Would it be valuable to you if you could transform your goals into reality, like whatever those goals might be? And just try picturing this. Customers are packed around the building, waiting in a long line, eagerly awaiting a chance to seize your offer. Would that feel amazing? So exciting, right? And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today on this episode is how to create your own reality. And our guest today is the amazing coach Barbara. I'm awesome Angie Engstrom.
And I'm Gitte Edgard. And we're so excited to have you here today, Barbara. Welcome.
I am very excited to be here with both of you. We're having so much fun already. It can only get better.
So
Yes,
true.
exciting.
And that's what we're all about, having fun.
Right? Life is serious enough already. We need to have more fun in life.
Exactly. Exactly.
And more plants. I think that.
Yes. Plants, nature, fun. I'm for it.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a short presentation of you, Barbara. Barbara is a transformation coach. She's a speaker, she's an author, and she helps business owners unleash the power that is already within them and reignite the passion and the purpose with the purpose of helping them achieve a soulful, profitable business, achieve their dreams, and live a fulfilled life on their terms. Barbara is also the author of 4 books. She's the host of a podcast. She has a blog on LinkedIn and a TV show on YouTube. Welcome to the amazing Barbara. Welcome. We're happy to have you. Hi.
Whoa, hi. So good to be here.
Excellent. Let's dive in and
Yes.
just tell us what inspired you to get started in your business.
Well, my own demise, basically. It sounds very ominous, but it came out of a dark night of the soul, right? Because before I started my business, I was working in IT. I started as a web designer, web developer, worked my way up to a programmer, project manager, and ended up as an agile coaching consultant. So much in software development. But the things I ran into were that it's not about how hard you work and the results that you get. It's how well you're able to kiss up and kick down and how well you're able to play the company politics. And I am not good at that. And I also don't want to be good at that. But that seemed to be the only way to get yourself to a different level. And I saw everybody moving up, and people thought I was going to move up and then would saw my chair legs out from under me so that I would plummet and they would rise up. And I didn't feel happy in that environment. But I've been taught you need to get a career and then advance in that career and have that career. So I did what everybody else did, and that was going miserably to my work. And so many people are doing that. And there came then this moment in 2010, I believe, where I just reached my breaking point. I had been under a lot of pressure from the project already. It was a very important project for our business because we had lost our major client that was responsible for 3/4 of our income. And this was a huge new client that could fill that gap. And that would mean that most of my co-workers would not lose their job. So no pressure, right? And then the client was a very difficult client that had a lot of demands, but also wasn't really cooperating. So there was a lot of friction in that project. And the director of my business was micromanaging the entire thing because he couldn't trust the people to do their work. And then the representative of the client was someone who liked to push your buttons to see how long it would take for you to break. So that's the scene that I was operating in. And we had 2 people in our company that were from the client that were supposed to test everything, and they were not doing their job. And then when it didn't measure up to the expectations of the client, my boss would throw me under the bus. It was always my problem or my fault, or, well, I didn't have autonomy. I didn't have any say. I could only signal problems and then go to my boss and say, this is a problem, you need to fix it. And then when he wouldn't, it would still be my fault. So as an empath and a highly sensitive person with this huge responsibility, this feeling of being responsible and being correct and being the best you can be, that just really took a toll on me. And I was feeling like a live wire, and it meant that I started postponing getting to bed on Sunday evening, because the next moment I woke up, it would be Monday morning, right? And I didn't want to go to work, but I had to go to work. So that was already going on for some time. And then the moment it broke was because of two things. On the one hand, my partner of 7 years just got up at the end of an evening watching a movie on the couch together, and he turned around, he looked at me and he said, "You know what? I'm done with this relationship. I want you to move out at the end of the week." I had not seen that one coming. Nobody had seen that one coming. None of our friends, none of our family members, nobody saw that one coming. And then at work, there was another problem, one in a line of things, and I had organized a meeting to make change, to talk about solutions. And 5 minutes before the meeting was supposed to start, the representative of the client called me and said she wasn't coming. I snapped. And me snapping meant that I told her exactly what I thought of her in detail.
Oh boy.
And she hung up crying. So I went to my boss and I told him honestly what had happened. And I had already signaled multiple times that I wasn't doing well and that the project wasn't doing well and that action needed to be taken. And they never did, although they promised. So it was not a huge shocker to my manager, which was not the director. But yeah, that was the moment I broke. And I felt like I was failing everybody, that I was failing my coworkers, I was failing the company, I was failing my boss, I was failing myself, and I was so hard on myself. And I tried to push myself, but I couldn't. I honestly think I cried for 72 hours straight. They took me to the doctor to get me oxycodone to get me to stop crying. It was really an explosion of overflowing bucket. And yeah, that was the start of my self-discovery journey. In that moment, my director told me when we had a meeting later, "Yeah, but you are an HSP because you're exactly like my wife, and my wife is an HSP, so you must be an HSP." And I didn't know what he was talking about. It didn't mean anything to me. So I didn't know if he was calling me a name. I didn't know if I was supposed to feel offended. And I just sat there and thought, oh, okay, right. And just nodding along. But I thought, I need to look that up. I need to go and find what the hell that means, because if he is accusing me of being that, I need to know what it is, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I discovered that it stood for highly sensitive person, HSP, highly sensitive person. And I started to read about it. And the more I read about it, the more I felt like I came home to myself. Like I started understanding myself and who I was and why I was having these experiences. Also, why I ended in my burnout. I discovered that the way into a burnout for a highly sensitive person is completely different than the way into a burnout for most other people. And it took me 2 to 3 years to get myself out of the burnout, which is how I discovered that the way out of the burnout is also completely different for a highly sensitive person. And lots of trial, lots of error, And that's the why behind how my business got started. I felt like this needs to be better for people like me. And there was nobody out there that did energy management or stress management or talking about high sensitivity, especially not in combination with burnout. So way back, that's how my business started.
So you sort of healed yourself.
Yes.
Ah, fascinating.
That's wonderful. Yeah, what a wonderful Thank you for sharing that. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine crying for 72 hours.
No, it was horrible. I couldn't stop. And it was like looking at yourself from a bird's eye view, right? You think, who is this person that's this blubbering, crying mess there?
Wow, that's amazing. Like uncontrollable, like you could not control it.
I couldn't. And then when I thought it would light up, then whoa, a new wave it came in, and it just wave after wave after wave. And it turned out later that it also had to do with my childhood and the abuse in my childhood and the abuse in my relationships before him. And it's just like stacking of
Yeah,
so
exactly.
many things that I never really grasped or had expressed, that just reached the breaking point.
Yeah.
And how did that, cause that 72-hour point, what was it that got you out of it initially? Because I know you have a process now that probably can help a lot quicker, I would imagine.
Initially, it was drugs. They literally took
Yeah.
me to the doctor to give me drugs to make me sleep so that I would stop crying. That was literally the thing that made it stop. And then I think I slept for 18 hours straight. I woke up, I took a shower, and I went back to bed because I was exhausted again. And then I slept for another 16 hours and woke up again, took another shower, got up, and then managed to eat something. And from there, it's got better and better with time, but also with, well, discovering everything about myself, right? I discovered that a lot of things that didn't make sense about myself when I was growing up were because I am just a little bit different than most of the other people. When you talk numbers, about 20% of the population is highly sensitive and 80% is not. So that means that 4 out of the 5 people I was meeting did not understand me, and I did not understand them. And they didn't think like me, they didn't act like me, they didn't have the same things they find important like I did. And that made me feel like there was something wrong with me, that I needed to change, and that I needed to find a way to be more like everybody else, because like everybody else, I too wanted to be loved and valued and seen, and have friends and get along with my co-workers and stuff. So then my default mode was trying really hard, trying really hard to please other people. And yeah, that's part of what contributed to the breakdown. I wasn't me.
Yeah. No, and it takes a lot of energy, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
To constantly be someone else. So I saw that there were a couple of things that were happening with the energy thing. It's on the one hand, the sheer amount of energy that you put into wearing a mask. I had a version of myself for when I was with my coworkers, a version of myself for when I was with my friends, a version of myself for when I was with my parents, a version of myself for when I was with my partner. And all of these balls I needed to keep up in the air. So that's already very exhausting. But being a highly sensitive person and being an empath also means that I take over other people's energy and emotions. So I would feel everybody's energy, everybody's moods, and I didn't know that I was doing that. So I thought that what I was feeling was mine because I'm feeling it. And that turned out to not be true. So I am naturally happy and bubbly, and I could be inconsolably sad in the blink of an eye. And they even tried to label me as a borderline personality because of that. But I am not a borderline personality. I'm just someone who takes over other people's emotions and then expresses it. And I never knew that that was possible. So when I discovered that, I thought, oh, wow, that explains why I could never say why I was so upset. It wasn't my upset. So that plays a big role into it. But also, as a highly sensitive person, we have what they call sensory processing sensitivity, and it's not a disease. It's not something you have. It's just, it means that your nervous system is wired differently from most other people, and specifically, it's more finely tuned. And what that means is that in the same situations, I literally hear more, see more, smell more, feel more, and experience more. A lot more information is coming in through what I call my sensory antennas. So that also means that I have a lot more information to process. Luckily, we process that at a much higher speed than most people. So that sort of makes up for it, but you do need to process all of that information. And when we don't know how to do that, when we are an unaware empath or an unaware HSP, we do that in our sleep. Our entire day passes by in our sleep, and we review everything and we then process it. So that means that sleeping is incredibly important, especially for the unaware empath, because that's where you process your day. I use the analogy of a bucket. So during the day, your bucket gets filled with whatever. And then during the night, you process that bucket to get the bucket back to empty again. But if for some reason you don't sleep enough or you don't sleep well, then you don't empty your bucket, which means that you start the next day with already a layer in your bucket, and it gets added. Things get added to it. And if that continues for a prolonged period of time, you can already figure that by the time it comes to the point that your bucket is permanently full, then that needs to happen and you're overflowing, which is what led me to my burnout. And it was the final drop in a bucket that was already extremely full, and I overflowed.
I love
Would
your
you call,
description. This is fantastic,
yeah.
Barbara. Go ahead, Gaby.
Now, I was just gonna say, yeah, I'm really fascinated. It's so interesting. I am curious to know how did you get through it?
That's a very good question. With a lot of trial and error, and I mean a lot of trial and error. So I looked for outside help. I think I have done almost any healing modality that is out there: Reiki, soul body fusion, EFT, EMDR, coaching, going to psychologists, psychiatrists, but also I keep forgetting names, but you name it, and I've probably done it. There are so many healing modalities, and some worked and some didn't work. Some gave little pieces of the puzzle, but none of them really moved the needle significantly. And that further fueled my belief that there was something wrong with me, right? Because these healing modalities seemed to work for other people. And I did family constellations, I did the Akashic reading, for instance, or theta healing, all of these things. And it never really did what I hoped in bringing ease into my life. And the thing that really, really moved the needle was when I discovered first the human design system and then the gene keys, which for me are a bit like the yin and the yang. Shall I explain shortly what they are for the people that are listening that are not familiar?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So the human design system, it's based on the I Ching, the Kabbalah, the astrology, the Western astrology, the Ayurveda system, but also neuroscience. And what they have discovered is that the moment you are born, you are imprinted as a certain person with a specific energy type, with a specific profile, with a specific strategy of how to make decisions, with a specific authority that allows you to be who you naturally are. That's the human design system. So for me, that's the yang part of the equation, because it gives a lot of answers, a lot of insights, a lot of actions that you can take because of it. And then the gene keys are sort of stooled on top of the human design system, but they are more the yin version of it, meaning for me that they go in. They make you contemplate what things have actually meant for you in your life. What are the gates in human design, are the keys in the gene keys. And the gene keys then have 3 different layers. They have the shadow layer, which is what you are when you're not being yourself, when you are not living your best life, when you are not connected to source, when you are not effortlessly flowing through life for whatever reason, then you're in the shadow layer of that specific key for you. Then the middle layer they call the gift. The gift is basically the pathway between the shadow layer, the path you need to walk to get to the third layer, which they call the city, which is your higher self. So this system shows you what you will look like if you are being completely yourself and what it looks like when you are not being yourself. And this asks of you that you take this information and then look at your past and discover the patterns, the shadow patterns, knowing exactly when you are stepping into a certain shadow pattern, knowing what that is triggered by, and then being able to make a different choice, a different decision, and consciously choosing not to follow that shadow pattern anymore, but stepping into a better version of or a better response to such a situation. And it also helps you to heal on a very deep level, not just physically, but also spiritually, emotionally, ancestrally. It helps also heal you in your DNA level, which might sound a little bit out there for some people, and that's okay. That's what I thought in the beginning too. But this was the thing that moved the needle for me. This answered every single question I've ever had about me and my life and why I was experiencing things and why things kept happening. And it showed me my purpose. It also showed me that the business I was running before was not my best business. And it showed me how to run a business that really is good for me, in line with my purpose.
So I assume that all these modalities that you've experienced, did you put all of that into your own process with your coaching? Would that be correct?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Awesome.
So I first created the 3 online programs you were talking about, Giddy, that are about mastering your high sensitivity, getting to know your own user manual, learning how to protect your energy, how to not take over everybody's emotions, how to purge your bucket when you feel the energy rising to an uncomfortable level, how to have an emotion rescue kit for yourself, how to have an energy rescue kit for yourself so that you can apply it when you need to. And then taking that foundation to figure out what it is you want and build a business around it. And that's what I was already doing. And then when I discovered the human design and the gene keys, it quickly became very clear to me that that fit in with what I was already doing, and that became my new core, the new core of everything that I was doing. And the starting point of getting to that core and getting to that information is what I now call the BU by Design blueprint, which I offer to people who just are sick and tired of always sick and tired, and who are just so ready to finally step into the driver's seat of their life and live a life that they think, yes, exciting, I'm ready to wake up and start a day.
Sounds amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
yes,
awesome.
it truly is.
Awesome. So what holds people back from taking you seriously about all this? Like, they might hear this interview and they might have some reservations in the back of their mind, you know, some internal stories that might be going on.
Yes.
Can you speak to that?
Yes. So in general, what holds people back is fears or limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs are often also based on fears, or they come from what I call the rules, the bullshit rules of society, the things that have been handed down from generation to generation about the way things are supposed to be done. And part of what I discovered about myself is that I am a manifesting generator. That's a human design term. That also means that I am a multi-passionate person, and that I take a little bit out of a lot of different things and then create my own new thing from that. And that will be very radically different from anything that you've ever seen. And that can cause resistance to people, because it's not what Tony Robbins does, or
Mm.
what other well-known people in the industry are doing, and that can cause fear. Will it really help? Will it really help me? Is it going to give me results? Other things that I see are bad experiences with people like Tony Robbins, for instance, that they invested a lot of money in a coaching modality or in a coach, and they promised them golden mountains and they failed to deliver. This happens to me multiple times in my career, so I get it. But also deeper fears, like the fear of not being good enough. It's a fear that sort of sabotages people without them knowing. They want more than they might even feel the need to reach out and to connect, and then they talk and it sounds awesome, and then the fears come. Because of a variety of reasons, and that can either make them stop with the change, stop with wanting to work or reach out or do the work or things like that, or if they are open to it, it can expose the things they need to work on. But that usually requires a very how to describe that, a very urgent need. Right? You need to be at a point where you think, well, I'm done. I had a client come to me and she said, you are my final hope. I've tried everything. And if you're not working, if what you're doing is not working, then I think I'm going to shoot myself. Because, you know, I don't want to go on living like this. And this is intense, right? But it was also an intense pain that she was in. She was in such an intense pain that she managed to drive her car into our local park where cars are not allowed and where huge blocks are preventing cars to come in, and she managed to drive around it over a field.
Oh,
That's how
Wow.
off she was, right? And
yeah.
then she was, well, desperate. I think that would be the word that will cover it. And of course, you don't have to be desperate to work with me, but you have to be in an energy where you think, well, I am ready to try something different, because what I've been doing up until now obviously has not been working, because I'm still not feeling the way I want to be feeling. I'm still not seeing the results I want to be having, and I'm still not joyfully happy every day. And then you need to be open and willing to explore a different way of doing things, a different way of looking at things, and also to be clear towards yourself that you are ready and willing and able to do what it takes to take everything in and to trust the process, surrender to it, and yeah, let yourself be led to outcomes that are not visible to you in your current state.
Yeah. So there's actually, what I'm hearing is there's a lot of internal objections really going
Yes.
on. Is there anything else that's holding people back from working
Well,
with you?
often people say it's a money thing, right? I don't have the money to work
Yeah.
with things, and sometimes that's actually true. Especially
Mm.
since COVID, people have been hit very hard, and things
Mm.
are very different. So that's part of why I've introduced a new way of pricing my products. I let people decide what they can pay for it, and then go through
Oh.
it. And then if they think, well, this was so much more valuable than what I paid for it, and they want to usually pay me more afterwards, then that is of course possible. But I want it to be available to everybody. So that's a change that I made. But sometimes people also say that they don't have the money for it because of internal fears again, or because I or other people like me haven't done our job well enough and haven't shown them what it can look like in such a way that they feel like, yes, this is mine.
Wow. You know, pricing like that takes a lot of confidence in your product.
Yes.
Mhm.
I really love this conversation, Barbara. This is so amazing because you're speaking to that sector of people that, like you said, there's not many people that can reach that group. I'm relating a lot, by the way, to what you're saying.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
I'm just very grateful that you joined us today and shared.
Mm,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Just thank you. It was just so brilliant.
Yeah.
All of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for giving me the time and the space. I've been loving this conversation.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
as we wrap up,
definitely.
is there anything else on your heart that you can think of you want to share before we ask you the final question?
Well, I think that people need to look within themselves for answers, and most people try to look outside of themselves for answers. They try to look at like I did, healing this or healing that, or going to that person, going to this person, but for outside things. And the answer to everything is inside. And this system is why I made it the core of what I am doing, added to what I was already doing, is helping you to look within. So I'm your guide, I'm your mentor. I'm not pushing you or asking you to do anything. You are the one that's doing the work, and the answers are within you. But you need to be brave enough to go looking for them.
And
Yeah, and you need a guide actually, just like you, to find the direction.
Well, technically, you don't need a guide per se. It's like going to the gym without a personal trainer. You can go to the gym and you can do
Mm.
Pilates, or you can do a body pump session, or you can go to the weight machines and do something, right?
Mhm.
So and you might get results. You also might not, depending on what you're doing. But if you want quicker results, better results, faster results, then you
Yeah.
hire a personal trainer, because he can look at who you are and then sort of custom make a program that takes into account who you are and how your muscles work and what your eating pattern should be. And then you have a lot better results in a lot shorter time. So that's the benefit of having a guide, because another danger of doing it by yourself is that you get lost. That you don't
Mm.
really know where the path is going anymore, and before you know
Yeah.
it, you're heading in the wrong direction, often not even realizing that you're doing that until months later.
Mhm.
this has been fascinating. Thank you, Barbara,
Yeah,
so much. And if
really
any
is.
of you listeners out there are hearing this and you're relating on any level, and maybe this whole conversation is speaking to you, Barbara, tell them what they can do next.
Well, the best thing I think would be to go to my website, which is HSP Coach Barbera, Barbera. Right in my header, you will already see the BU by Design blueprint that you can order. I've kept it low priced. It's only $25, but it will transform your life in a shockingly, amazingly positive way that you cannot even fathom right now. So that would be my advice. But if you are still a little bit skeptical and you think, well, I liked this, but I want to know more and I want to see more of you, then just go to my YouTube channel, which is also HSP Coach Barbara, and check out some of my other videos, interviews, talks, and yeah, feel if it feels right for you.
So great.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, and listeners, if you're listening and you want to connect with Barbara, please go to ahpcoachbarbara.com, and it's Barbera, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for coming here today, Barbara. It's been so, yeah, it's really been inspiring. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me, Gita and Angie. I loved it. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yay, we
it's
have a new
been,
friend.
yeah. Yeah, it's been fun too.
I love it. I love it. All right, wrap us up, Gidi.
Yes, I'm Giri.
And I'm Angie. And thanks for listening. And keep your momentum and keep moving forward. And if you want to learn more about Gidi and I at Elite Virtual Stages, you can find us on Facebook as well as on the web at elitevirtualstages.com/report. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.